showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
They say the absolute mountaintop of professional wrestling. That is not this podcast. Do not be mistaken. This is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and for the United Wrestling Network. My name is J. Cal, and I'm looking fresh and clean. I just got the old mop cleaned up, so I feel pretty good today. I hope you guys are feeling pretty good today too. This is a presentation again of the Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. And I think I already said that. I'm a little pumped up. I see the room's starting to fill out. We got Willie Bowen in the house. What's up, Willie? I see Terry McDermott is here. And yeah, man, what an interesting week. We're seeing some things happen that we haven't seen in quite some time. We're seeing, we're seeing an active NWA champion defending all across the circuit. Yeah, we have some wrestlers making appearances outside of the NWA. I mean, last week we had Nick Aldis and, Chris Adonis. I almost called him Chris Masters. I keep doing that. Chris Adonis and Nick Aldis in where was it? Not Portugal, Poland. Gosh, got my P countries mixed up. They were out in Poland wrestling, representing the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, Masters was without his national championship, but they did reference it in the broadcast. They did show him with the national championship, and I think that was pretty cool. Real quick, I do want to say hi to everyone else that just recently jumped in. Dodie's in the house. Heebs is here. Fiona is in the house. I do appreciate you guys checking us out every week here on Tuesdays, right ahead of NWA Power. But don't forget that you could join us on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, as we recap the episode of Power you're watching tonight, the episode you're going to watch right now. So, getting back to the NWA and seeing its talents appear in other areas, let's talk about the Brick House. Let's talk about Kamille, because right now she is your new national treasure. And yes, I'm going to dub her that. She is doing 100% the things that made Nick Aldis special, that made Nick Aldis a household name, if you will, with pro wrestling, because Kamille is putting down the foundation, the groundwork. She's showing up everywhere, fellas and ladies. And she's showing up with the Burke representing the National Wrestling Alliance, the same way that Thunder Rosa did during a global pandemic, the same way that we were hoping to see other NWA champions carry that title, carry that brand into new territories, into new promotions, and to represent the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, when we talk about Kamille, it was just a few weeks ago she had made her debut for Championship Wrestling from Memphis. The big point of that is, first of all, United Wrestling Network and Championship Wrestling from Memphis are, it's a marriage. It's a family. United Wrestling Network is the brainchild of David Marquez, who operates Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, Championship Wrestling from Arizona when it comes back. Primetime Live also helps to produce the West Coast Pro Wrestling pay-per-view out of San Francisco. And then you have Championship Wrestling from Memphis, which he is a part of. He's a partner of, but it's ran by Dustin and Maria Starr, who have been known to bring in talents from other organizations. They brought in Lance Archer from AEW. They brought in Jungle Boy a few times from AEW. And so seeing the maturation for Championship Wrestling from Memphis and the fact that they're not worried about bringing in talents from other wrestling promotions, they brought Teddy Long, who most recently was associated with Southwestern Wrestling Entertainment. Then they bring in Kamille. So that's a pretty big deal, guys. That's an NWA champion on a United Wrestling Network program. Now, I don't believe she defended the title, but they didn't hide the fact that she was a women's world champion. They didn't hide the fact that she was representing the National Wrestling Alliance, and I think that's pretty cool. And it speaks a lot about the volume of the United Wrestling Network, but also to the stature of Kamille and how important that Burke title has become in such a short time. Now, we said it when Allison Kay became champion. We expected really big things for her. And then Thunder Rosa came in and changed up everything. Now, that's not to take away from Allison Kay, but Thunder Rosa was a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. And for her time in the NWA was spent ultimately creating value for the Women's World Championship. And likewise, Serena Deeb came in and won the championship at a Primetime Live episode and defended that title not only at the Primetime Live, but also defended it in AEW, came in and gave Kamille that opportunity to wrestle for that title. And Kamille has done nothing but just ran with that ball since winning the championship. Now, it took her defeating Thunder Rosa not once but twice to get the opportunity to face Serena Deeb. And when she defeated Serena Deeb for that title, she went on to defend against Chelsea Green. She went on to defend against, you guys are going to get a legit Layla Hirsch. I knew I remembered it. And now, in the next couple of weeks, you could go to alliance-wrestling.com and you could see the matches are coming up. Anna Diaz this week, October 16th. And then, of course, October 24th, she's going to be defending at the By Any Means Necessary show. And then we're going to see her on November the 14th at River City Wrestling. It's almost like a second home for her out there in San Antonio, Texas. She'll be making another defense out there. Then, if she's still successful, on December the 18th, which is supposed to be after the next round of NWA TV tapings out in at the pay-per-view, which is Hard Times 2, and of course the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios, the TV tapings out there. Then on the 18th of December, she's scheduled to defend against Mercedes Martinez at the old ECW Arena. To say that this woman is carrying the NWA on her back might be an understatement. Is there anybody in the NWA who's bringing this much attention, bringing this much carte blanche to that title, to that women's division? It's very much like seeing Thunder Rosa again out there with that title and making it relevant and putting it in the spotlight. Now, of course, she hasn't showed up in AEW yet, and Impact hasn't used her yet, but the fact of the matter is that Women's World Championship with her at the helm has been defended in multiple places and continues to be defended in multiple places. I'm going to dub her again so that everyone can hear it and make it a sound clip. Kamille is the new national treasure. Don't debate me on this one. Some of your comments, let's see. Willie Bowen says, there was an ice statue of Tyrus and Roseanne Barr, but it melted and became the Pacific Ocean. What did Roseanne do? Sean Vega says, Kamille deliver in multiple big matches. Allison Kay, not so much. Sean, I think Allison Kay needs the right motivation. I don't think she's gotten it yet. I think she had some really good matches with Thunder Rosa. I feel like she could and will do better. She just needs to be in the right spot. Willie Bowen says, Kamille is awesome. I forgot I could put these up on the screen here real quick because I like giving you guys the attention that you willfully deserve. And then he says, tweet that Kamille comment so it's real. Not only will I tweet it, I'm going to screen cap this video and I'm going to put it out there so that everyone knows that Kamille is the legit national treasure. NWA Gold is in the house, and NWA Gold is my pal, Tim. Now, if you guys don't know, because this is a natural break in the progression, we are currently at 700 and let me see here, 723 subscribers. Now, when we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to do a big giveaway. And when I say big, it doesn't get much bigger than the NWA Crown Championship, the title that was held from 1959 to 1973. I believe that's what it is. I'm sure someone can correct me if I'm wrong. A replica was made for our friend NWA Gold, and he is going to be giving that away to one of you subscribers. And he said he doesn't care where you're at. So that's amazing. There's a title out there, the NWA crown, the belt that Dory Funk Jr. held, the belt that Gene Kaninsky held, the title that Harley Race held for a short time. That could be yours. A replica of that title could be yours if, and only if, you subscribe to this channel, and only if we reach 1,000 subscribers. Guys, we can do it. And I think we really can. So I hope that you're sharing this page, you're sharing these videos. Anybody who's an NWA fan or a fan of the United Wrestling Network, get them to check out the videos. See if they'll subscribe, because once we hit 1,000, one lucky winner is going to win that title. Plus, we're going to do some other giveaways. We have some T-shirts, some hats, some pins. You know, replica the little pins with the NWA title on it. We have action figures like Nick Aldis that we'll be giving away, because who doesn't want their own version of the former Real World's champion? So a lot of fun stuff we're going to be doing. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, follow, all that fun stuff. And then, John Farmer's in the house, and he said Kamille has recently also defeated Allison Kay and Mel in a three-way in Illinois. John, I hope you heard. I just put over Kamille to the moon. She is the real national treasure. She is the NWA brand. She's carrying that title, that Burke, with so much pride and prestige. And the fact of the matter is that she's not waiting for an NWA pay-per-view to defend that title, but she's going out to San Antonio, Texas. She's going out to, of course, she'll be out there in Kentucky for the No Means Necessary, but she's also going out to Philadelphia to defend the title. She'll be out in, I think I said Tennessee, out to defend the title. The fact that she was in Memphis to defend the title, the fact that she's out there putting that NWA brand on her back and carrying that women's division is a testament to how she is the legitimate national treasure of the National Wrestling Alliance. John also points out that she defeated Kiera Hogan and Christy James in a three-way at River City Wrestling. Yeah, River City Wrestling knows what's up when it comes to Kamille. They're booking her, and they're booking her in strong matches. Willie Bowen says, you think that Serena Deep will wrestle for NWA Power again? Not likely. I wouldn't count on too many more talents from AEW to continue to appear in the NWA. Not because anything bad happened, but just at some point, there needs to be a return on investment. And I just feel like they are not really looking at working that out at the moment. Sorry, I got a late breaking news here. Just want to make sure that it's okay. It's not that important. Okay, so with that being said, really looks like things are picking up for the NWA. We just talked about how great the Women's World Champion is. We talked about how if you subscribe to this channel, we'll be giving away a replica title of the Crown Championship. The next thing on the list to talk about is this card that's starting to shape up for By Any Means Necessary. Now, that happens on October the 24th out in Kentucky as a product of the Tried and True Pro Wrestling and the National Wrestling Alliance. And already scheduled, that we know these matches have been announced. These aren't Wikipedia guesses. These aren't fan guesses. These are been advertised by the NWA. The steel cage match with Crimson and Jax Dane. Don't know if you guys are on board with Jax Dane the way that I am, but the man has gone from an afterthought to the main event just by a few words, just by a few actions. He's not going to be held back by Crimson anymore. And I've said it more than once on this podcast that if Dr. Stinson can be the Nick Aldis stand, then I will proclaim myself the Jax Dane stand. I will be here to represent Jax Dane to the fullest. The man is a Grand Slam champion for the National Wrestling Alliance. He doesn't need to win the TV title. He doesn't need to waste time with the TV title. He doesn't need to waste time with the national title. That man deserves a front row ticket to the 10 pounds of gold and Trevor Murdoch. And when that match happens, all hell will break loose. But before any of that happens, he's going to have to go through Crimson in a steel cage match. And that happens in Kentucky at By Any Means Necessary. But By Any Means Necessary, those aren't the only matches. The other two matches already scheduled will be Team Hex defending their NWA Women's World Championships against Tootie Lynn Ramsey, and Kylie Ray. Now, I'm not big on make fish. I don't know what I was trying to say. The random pairings. I'm not a big fan of putting two random talents together and making them a tag team, but we do have to understand, and it needs to be known, that the NWA just doesn't have a ton of women tag teams. Now, if you're going to ask me who is out there, who's available, well, I mean, I'm going to say Blonde Force Trauma, the tag team of Heather Monroe and Ray Lynn. That's a tag team that I think makes a lot of sense for the NWA. But also the I know it was just an invention for the Empower pay-per-view, but the Free Babes was a pretty good pairing with Miranda Gordy, Jazzy Wang Yang, and Hollywood J. I think that would have been a very good trios to see a part of the NWA. And maybe down the road we can see that again. John said, "Did you lose your?" That's a good. No, I got a haircut, John. I got to show it off, man. These things aren't cheap. I finally got it cleaned up. Honestly, I've been out of the house all day today, and I just literally got here about 10 minutes before the podcast is supposed to start. So, anyways, with that being said, in the pay-per-view shaping up, the match most recently announced will be Colby Corino and the Pope. Now, this match on paper just kind of is a head scratcher, but we know that Colby Corino is starting to gain some steam within the National Wrestling Alliance. He too has an opportunity at any championship that he wants, the same opportunity that the Pope has and the same opportunity that Jax Dane has. Trevor Murdoch cashed his in. We also know Velvet Sky has a pass, whether she wants to challenge for the tag titles, maybe a reunification of the Beautiful People, or maybe she wants to try her luck against Kamille, which won't end well for her. But she has it, or she could gift that opportunity to another wrestler on the roster. And I'm not for nothing, but I think she knows Bully Ray very, very well. And Bully Ray has said on Busted Open Radio that perhaps he would like another run one more time. And I can't think of a better place to be than the National Wrestling Alliance. And I think if Bully Ray's out there, if anyone could parlay this message to the board of directors, to the championship committee, to the head booker, or to Billy Corgan himself, the storyline writes itself. Velvet Sky still retains an opportunity to challenge any champion that she could bestow upon somebody else. Bully Ray is out there. Come on, everybody. Let's put this together. Let's make it happen. Get out there. If you want to see Bully Ray in the NWA, tweet it out there. As our pal Heeb said, make it real with that. Tweet that comment to make it real. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of fired up. You guys are hearing me. I'm speaking passionately about the NWA. And if you were here on Thursday, you know that wasn't exactly easy to do. But there's some renewed energy, and I'm feeling like this October 24th event in Kentucky is really going to help shape the direction of the NWA. We know that there's going to be it's not going to be live on pay-per-view, but somehow they're going to air it on Fight, and I don't know if that's a pay-per-view or if that's going to be part of the NWA package that we're currently subscribed to. So we'll see how that works out. More of your comments. Bobby Petito, he would like to see Reka Tahaka get an opportunity to wrestle on the NWA. Now, being that she's appeared multiple times for Championship Wrestling from Atlanta and seeing her up close and personal in a match against Heather Monroe, I can tell you that this woman has a lot of skills. And I would certainly think she'd be a great addition to the NWA roster. I'm not sure where she lives, but the fact that she's been at both Atlanta tapings means that Atlanta wouldn't be a hard stretch for her to get to. And certainly whoever's doing the scouting for the NWA should certainly be paying attention to that. Terry McDermott wants to remind everyone that he is the unofficial spokesman for Jordan Clearwater. And Jordan Clearwater's got a shot at the TV title. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Willie Bowen says Jordan Clearwater and Slice Boogie versus the current NWA World Tag Team Champions. I mean, as somebody who is starting to really admire Jordan Clearwater and Slice Boogie. I don't want to see them as a tag team. I think there's opportunity for both men in different vehicles. I think for Clearwater, and like I said, we'll talk more about it in a minute, but watching him in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood this past, I guess it was earlier this month, October the 2nd, and his match with Kevin Martinson was off the charts, just great. I do highly suggest anybody who's a fan of Jordan Clearwater, and that's mostly directed at you, Terry. Happy birthday, by the way. Is that Jordan Clearwater in Hollywood is a very different beast than Jordan Clearwater in the NWA, and I think we're starting to see that maturation process for the NWA. But I really think that Jordan Clearwater in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is really someone you want to stop and watch. He's a former Hollywood Heritage champion. He, like I said, he just had a really good match against Kevin Martinson. And then at the pay-per-view, he took on his former trainer and MMA fighter, The Truth, Bulletproof, not The Truth. I keep saying that, Bulletproof. And that's someone who I'm very excited to see if that storyline continues. I do want to point out that the other birthday boy, Michael Elliott, is in the house, recognizing the greatness that is Chris Candido. If only somebody were to make an informational documentary about the time that Chris Candido was NWA World's Champion, I know Michael Elliott could help that happen. So we'll just leave it at that. Bobby Petito also says he would like to see Kamille versus Kylie Ray. Bobby, I think that match is in the works, pal. I think that match is going to happen a lot sooner than most of us think. I don't think it'll be December 4th, and obviously it won't be October 24th, but I do believe that they're building Kylie Ray to be the next big thing for the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, I know that sounds a bit silly because of the fact that Kylie Ray was such a already big deal on the independents. She was very dominant with her time in Impact Wrestling. She was signed to AEW because she was such a talented individual. But I really feel like the NWA is grooming her to be that next big thing. Now, I'm not saying that they're in a rush to get the title off of Kamille, because obviously Camille's doing big things right now as Women's World Champion. But also keep in mind, guys, that if WWE comes knocking, if AEW comes knocking, it's going to be hard for some of these talents to churn down these guaranteed contracts with these big-time wrestling companies to stay in the NWA. And that's not a shot at Billy Corgan, but this is also a wrestling promotion that's only really like 2-3 years in the making, right? And one of those years was basically dormant because of COVID. So you have to kind of give a little bit of pause to Billy Corgan and the NWA, because a lot of the things that they're trying to do, they can't step up to that table the way that AEW has, because they're not backed by a billionaire. Same thing with Vince McMahon. Sean Mega says Corgan needs to call Triller for the bag. I mean, that's certainly one direction it could go, but the problem with that is once you bring in a partner, it's no longer just yours. And again, this great dichotomy with the NWA is it's a legacy brand. It's been known for 73 years, but it's also a startup. It's also only been as is for 3 years now, going on 4. That's a weird dichotomy. It's owned by a rock star who's wealthy, right? But he's not a billionaire. And it's funny because we're saying, well, being a multimillionaire isn't enough. But it's pro wrestling, and you know, people have to go where the money takes them. You know, we saw Eddie Kingston, who could have easily been a future world's heavyweight champion, go to AEW because that's where the money took him. We saw Ricky Starks, same thing, almost the same thing. He could be a future world's heavyweight champion, being AEW or the NWA or anywhere else he goes. He has that kind of stroke, and he had to go where the money took him. So needless to say, I mean, it's really a weird world that we live in with professional wrestling, with so many options, right? Because of course the top tier where you're going to get paid the best is AEW, WWE, but then there's promotions like Ring of Honor or Impact that have also stepped up to the plate. And then now you've got, with the NWA, you also have Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. You have Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. You have Championship Wrestling from Memphis. that whole United Wrestling Network. I mean, having Chris Dickinson there is a big deal. Game Changer Wrestling is getting recognized by like national news outlets. David Arquette versus Nick Cage was like all the talk 2 years ago, but then you start looking around and I mean, they're bringing in Zack Ryder, they're bringing in Moxley. I mean, the promotion is just doing things that is kind of unfounded for an independent, but they're really kind of taking things off, and they do shows with Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which mixes a whole different style of wrestling in with professional wrestling, and then the some of the other events that they've had. It's just that Game Changer Wrestling, it really is living up to its name. It's changing the game. Michael Elliott says Ricky is a future AEW champion. I mean, I see it, man. He could definitely be the excuse me, I need my drink here. He could definitely be a TNT champion like today. A feud between him and Sammy Guevara over that AEW championship would be money. All right, sorry about that. So, man, that's more talk about promotions outside the NWA than I think I've ever done on a pre-party. Thanks for humoring me and sticking around. And so more of the card that we have for tonight, because I think we'll get a few answers, especially when it comes to seeing our world's heavyweight champion stretch it out. Former world's heavyweight champion. I'm living in the past, apparently. We'll see the former world's heavyweight champion, Nick Aldis, being stretchered out last week. Now this week we'll hear about why, and we're going to hear at the podium. We're going to hear from Thom and Kamille, and I'm sure we're going to hear a rebuttal from Mickie James. James Storm will also be at the podium, and then we have this weird dichotomy of Kylie Ray, Chelsea Green, and Melina also going to be at the podium. And if I know the chase and I know how things have been going, that's just going to be wild. You probably aren't going to learn a whole lot from that trio, but I'm very interested to hear what Kamille and Thom Latimer have to say. You have to remember that Nick Aldis brought both of them into the NWA. Nick Aldis brought Kamille basically out of obscurity when she came to the 70th anniversary show to be his insurance policy against Brandy. I mean, it was wild. Nobody knew who she was at the moment. I mean, of course, John knows who she was, but I mean, in terms of the NWA, we didn't know who Kamille was. We had no idea what she was about, but she was very intimidating and had a very big physical presence right off the bat. This relationship, this dichotomy with Nick Aldis, he's been like a big brother to her. And the fact of the matter is that Thom, who was the best man in his wedding, took him out along with Adonis, who was, I know he's new to the family, but he was part of the family. All of this is made for some interesting storyline and story development for the NWA, because the Strictly Business was such a dominant force, having in the past have the tag team titles, the world championship, and now having the women's championship and the national championship. They just 86 their boss. They just iced him. They whacked him. And so I'll be interested to hear the comments from Kamille. It's not going to be just like, well, we want to get rid of him. There's going to be something there. And I think that's going to be very, very important. And as Shawn Mega says, it's Latimer's time to shine. I mean, he's been good on the mic, right? He's always been pretty good on the mic. In fact, my partner in the podcast, Kevin Frazier, former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, has multiple times said that Latimer is probably the most polished talent in the NWA. And so now it's his time to shine. He's going to have something to say, and it'll be interesting to hear how he breaks it down and what he sees with it. And then, of course, as we look at the rest of the card, we do see that we're going to have two semifinal tag team matches. So we're getting closer to seeing La Rebelion defend the NWA World Tag Team titles. They said that they wanted to see talent. The NWA threw some makeshift tag teams together, the Ill Begotten, which was awful. Sorry, guys, that was just terrible. And I like Yuma. And Rush Freeman seems like an all right guy, but that was just a bad pairing, and I still think it's bad. We're seeing a tag team with Mims and Sauronaro two baby faces, two guys who were here since day one. Sal Renaro's been a member of the NWA in its various entities going back to like the late 1990s, like 1999, year 2000, as part of NWA Wildside and later NWA Anarchy. And even though he was competing with Ring of Honor at the time, he was very much a part of that dynamic of the early NWA in the 2000s. And then, of course, Mims, like he is the poster child for what the NWA is about these days. A young kid who's hungry, who's learning, who's growing, who's developing with the brand. And I really do feel like Mims is one to watch. Did my camera just die on me? Really? There we go. Whew. So yeah, that should be pretty good. Roz says that Latimer's been good on the mic. Going back to Latimer, I don't want to lose your guys' comments. Bobby Batito says, I'd like to see more tag teams on the NWA, like Renee Michelle and Sahara 7 and Ashley Vox and Delmy Exo. I mean, yeah, Vox and Exo, the shining stars that they've been teaming in a lot of places too. So yeah, it would be cool to see more of them. Terry McDermott says Latimer does not need a title to put him over. He doesn't. And that's the thing. He hasn't had a title since him and Royce Isaacs lost the tag team titles to the Rock and Roll Express. So, I mean, Latimer doesn't need a title to be relevant, but it certainly would help solidify his stake in being one of the best in the company if he did have a title on him. Willie Bowen says Thom Latimer and Trevor Murdoch would be a great match. I mean, we've seen that match, and it was great. It's a Haas fight, and those two in the ring together, you know, no holds barred, just throwing fists and haymakers. That would be a lot of fun. I don't know we're going to see much wrestling in that match, but it would be a lot of fun. Then Michael Elliott says, bring in the Heat Seekers, former NWA World Tag Teams, Matt Sigmund, and, oh gosh, I forgot his partner's name. Real tall dude. Michael, what's his name? The tag team partner, Sigmund, and I can't remember. Former tag team champions with the NWA. So, yeah, I mean, that would be kind of cool too. But, you know, the NWA in it of itself has a couple of tag teams. They just need to showcase them. And we're going to see that showcase tonight. We're going to see Mims and Renaro versus Hawk Ari. You can't say enough good things about Hawk Ari. Thank you, Elliot Russell. That's who I was trying to say. Thank you. Hawks Ari is a talented tag team. PJ Hawk, I think, could be the future of this brand if he wants to be. I mean, the sky's the limit with this kid who his dad, you know, has worked the indies his entire life. Again, going back to NWA Wildside and NWA Anarchy. He's a product of XPW. He's been all over the world wrestling. He was Wrestling Society X, and he's even doing stunt work now for Steels Heels on Stars. I said Steels. Goodness gracious. Yeah. And so Hawk Ari is a great tag team, fun to watch, father and son duo. It'll be a very good match, I think, between Renaro and Mims, where I'm assuming Renaro and PJ will match up and seeing Luke and Mims match up. I think that's where it's going to be going. And then the other side of the spectrum, we have the former tag team champions, Stevens and Kratos, and they'll be taking on the End, Paro and Odinson. Now, you guys have been watching this podcast long enough to know that I'm a huge, huge End fan, and I really feel like they have been underutilized for the most part in the NWA. Two dudes who are that big and that good should be doing more than what they're doing. Now, I know Paro has had a few missteps while wrestling in the NWA, but I really do think that the End would make a phenomenal tag team champions. Like, they could show up anywhere and be dominant. But if I'm going to be honest with myself, and you guys, the viewers, I do feel like they're setting this up perfectly for a La Rebellion versus Luke Hawx and PJ Hawx match. And the reason why I say that is, first of all, if you look at the two teams, they're equally matched in terms of size, strength, and speed. Also, you when we talk about La Rebellion, and we wrote about this at alliance-wrestling.com, Luke Hawx had been a member of La Rebellion in Mexico as part of the La Rebelion Amarillo, the yellow version of the group. Like La Rebelion that we know in the NWA is just this tag team, but in Mexico, it was an offshoot. And the original leader of that group, now in the WWE, Bestia broke off from that group and started La Rebelion Amarillo. And that showcased a lot of guys like the original Black Taurus, Luke Hawk, and Rey Horas. And that was a very big group in Mexico as part of like AAA and also the Crash and various promotions here in the United States. So I really feel like they're starting to come into it, and having La Rebelion versus Hawkari, I think that's going to be a really good tag team match on pay-per-view. So that's one that I'm definitely looking forward to as well. So I just kind of gave you who I think is going to win tonight. If I'm booking the NWA, you're going to see Hawks Ari over Mims and Renaro. And then I think I'm going to give, unfortunately for Kratos and Stevens, I'm giving the End the edge in this match, putting Hawk Ari versus the End. And then leading up to the pay-per-view, Hawk Ari versus La Rebellion. But that's my take. What's yours? Certified Hustlers in the house. Welcome, Certified. Bobby Batito says, I would like to see Jax Dane versus Trevor Murdoch. I'm telling you, man, that's the match. If that's not Hard Times 2, it should be. I don't know what the plans are with the NWA. I mean, look, there's options, right? It could be the Pope. It could be Trevor Murdoch. Jax Dane. It could be a body outside of the NWA. And that's kind of the beauty of where they're at right now, is that it really could be anybody. One of the things about having a rotating door, this carousel, if you will, is that people come and people go, but that also gives you the opportunity to bring in big names. When our pal Nick Aldis was world champion, I mean, he defended against on Power, he defended against Tim Storm. On Power, he defended against Ricky Morton. But on pay-per-view, going back, he was supposed to face a Marty Scurll at Crockett Cup 2020. That was canceled. He faced Flip Gordon. Get a drink here. Sorry, guys. He faced Flip Gordon. He faced he was supposed to face PCO at a Ring of Honor show. That didn't happen. I mean, there's a lot of guys that he was supposed to face that were outside of the brand. So for Trevor Murdoch, I don't see why he couldn't face somebody outside of the brand. Now, this is a good comment. Dave Scooby says, Lindsay Snow is now taking bookings. Her and Lady Snow need to face the Hex for the belts. I mean, they've teased it. They've talked about it. Lindsay Snow had one appearance for the NWA as part of the Circled Squared. Now, that show had a lot of potential, but never realized its full potential. And then they kind of retconned the whole thing and said that Hawk Ari won it. But there was a lot of parts that we missed to that. I mean, on television, we saw Danny Jordan and Freya the Slaya face off. On television, we saw Colby Corino and George South face off, so that we didn't just see Hawk Ari debut. We saw a couple other debuts for Circle Square, and it would have been really, really cool if they had put that pairing together. And I really think that if we do see a continued growth of the tag team division. Now, I'll be honest, man, I think Lady Frost is on borrowed time. She is so good. And the fact that Impact has used her in a pretty positive way makes me feel like her time in the NWA is going to come to an end very, very soon. But if it does not, bringing in the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow, to team with Lady Frost, I think would be a stellar tag team, and one that certainly could give Allison Kay and Marty Bell a run for their money, because if we're being honest, American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow, is better at being a badass than Allison Kay is. And I'm just going to say it. And I'm going to tell you right now, too, nobody on the roster can touch Lady Frost in terms of finesse in the ring, in terms of technique. She's flawless. She, what the drawback for her as a character in the NWA is her attitude. But in terms of her in-ring ability, there's no one better on the roster, and that's including the men. Her moonsault is amazing. Her style in the ring is amazing. I think, again, Lady Frost is one of my favorites. So, you won't hear me say anything bad about her. Willie Bowen points out that Freya the Slayer would be great on the NWA Power roster. I thought so too. Now, I know she was a little green, but I feel like, this was before we got Genocide on the roster, and it was right around the time that that Kamille started actually wrestling. So having a big girl like that on the roster to rival Kamille would have been a very good idea. But I think that the direction they're going now is better suited for Kamille, and the fact that she's the women's world champion, she's not going to be spending time with somebody like Freya the Slayer. And in fact, if you look at who she's facing, I mean, she's facing Mercedes Martinez at the ECW arena. I think, Kamille is going to be one of those talents that is like forged by the fire, steel sharpens steel. I mean, she's taking on some of the best talents. Remember, her 2 matches with Thunder Rosa were nearly match of the year candidates. And the fact of the matter is that she beat Serena Deeb, who is a great wrestler. She beat Legit Layla, again, a great wrestler. She beat Chelsea Green, again, a great wrestler. I mean, they keep putting really talented females in the ring with her, and that's going to help her become a more complete package as she maturates here in the NWA. And honestly, like who could match her right now? Women of wrestling is starting to shape up. The WWE has its women's division. AEW has its women's division. The Impact has its women's division. Ring of Honor even has its women's division. But none of them have a talent like Kamille on their rosters. Whew, out of breath. You guys got me talking today. And Willie Bowen says that NWA Power should re-sign Santana Garrett. I mean, Santana Garrett's great, and I really like her too. I just feel like now is not the right time. They wouldn't use her correctly right now. And especially, again, with so many different promotions now focusing on women's wrestling, it's going to be harder to lock up some of these talents. Our pal, What Would Luthez Do, says she looks better in the ring every match, in my opinion. And it's hard to argue that, right? Her first match was very green, very sloppy. And that's, I know she's not a rookie. She's been wrestling for a while, but that match in and of itself wasn't that good. But the more she gets in there, she's being steel sharpening steel. She's being forged by the fire. And I know these are very cliche things to say, but the fact of the matter is it's absolutely right in this instance. She's not taking on people that are easy matches. I mean, even her match with gosh, why is my brain not working today? Even the match she had with the robot. Why can't I think of anybody's name today? Anyways, she's had quite a few good matches in the NWA. So you have to give credit to where credit is due. And the fact that I'm sure Thom Latimer is helping her with her training, and as well as Nick Aldis. I really feel like she's getting better every day. And then, so now on the main event tonight, we have Tyrus, everybody's favorite Tyrus. Tyrus will be taking on Jordan Clearwater. Now, I was waxing poetic about how good Jordan Clearwater is, but can we talk a minute about how good he has the potential to be in the NWA? Because we've seen him used in multiple different roles. He started off as being somebody who we kind of, they just weren't using correctly. Now with this more heel persona being managed by Austin Idol, I feel like we're getting more out of him. The promos, I feel like, are more on point. And this will be Tyrus's second title defense as NWA television champion. So, like, this match is very important for Tyrus to win, because if he wants an opportunity to face Trevor Murdoch, then he needs to win 7 matches in a row. Well, Tyrus has wrestled 2. This will be the second one. And there's talks that he might be wrestling Scion at the pay-per-view, which I think would be really, really good. But let me rephrase that. because I just said a Tyrus match would be really, really good. I think that Scion could work a match that would make sense with Tyrus. I don't think it would be really, really good. I just think a match between the two definitely doesn't have the potential to be match of the year just because Tyrus can't do that. But it could tell a story for sure. And it certainly puts the TV title in a different projection. It sends it in a different light. So I would be definitely okay with that. Bobby Batito, Bobby, says that he would like to see Lindsay Snow versus Kamille. And that would be a pretty damn good match too. Again, Lindsay Snow is very, very good in the ring. And she's very much an intimidating professional wrestler. So we'll see what happens with that. Willie Bowen is rooting for Jordan Clearwater tonight, and I can't blame him. Tyrus isn't everyone's cup of tea. We know for a fact that Willie is no fan. Terry says, I am one of the few that is a fan of the Masked Man. You know, I differ with my pal Kevin here when I say that I see a lot of potential in Scion, the Masked Man. And some of his promos come off as very not good. But I feel like his wrestling has been pretty solid. The match he had with Crimson during the Championship Cup was good. To me, I thought it was really good. And it did a very good job of telling the story of who Scion is. He wasn't looking for that cheap victory. He was going toe-to-toe with Crimson. And I really felt like they were definitely angling Scion in, who in his promos has been mostly a heel, very much worked like a babyface. And the fact that he kept going and going and going, didn't quit, got thrown over the top rope, didn't just lay out there and die, got back in the ring and was working that submission, working the leg. I mean, I really felt like that was a good way to tell that story. So tonight, when we get that main event of Jordan Clearwater and our pal Tyrus, I definitely think that if they do the match the right way, there could be some fun storytelling. Now, I'm almost certain I heard that Scion won't be there, that there was some things going on that he couldn't be there for the TV taping. So that's why a lot of his stuff looks sort of out of place. They just did what they could with him and hoped for the best. So we'll see how it all pans out. If he is there on December the 4th to challenge Tyrus, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But I do really feel like that's where they're heading with that. So guys, that's pretty much the show. We just talked about everything, right? We know what's going on for the pay-per-view. We know what's going on for tonight's show. We know that Any Means Necessary has a card that's starting to shape up. We've talked about Kamille being the new national treasure. One of the other things that I would be remiss if I didn't mention is that United Wrestling Network is coming back with another episode of Primetime Live that'll be taping on Halloween, October the 31st. I do believe that'll be a part of Fight TV that you can order. The last show was $9.99. It saw the Defy Tag Team Champions, Midnight Heat, defend against PP Ray, which was Peter Avalon and Ray Rosas. We also saw the crowning of United Wrestling Network World Champion in Chris Dickinson. Dickinson is supposed to be defending the title at Primetime Live. It'll be his first title defense. A lot of names that are being speculated as potential challengers. Some people I've heard say a Mike Bennett rematch, which I think would be a hell of a lot of fun. They're also speculating, and I do tend to do this too, is Tony Nese. I think he would be a lot of fun as well. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that all pans out. But it's starting to look really, really good. So if you guys are looking for more fun wrestling, I would recommend Primetime Live, which again, October the 31st. If you haven't checked it out yet too, Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, using a lot of the same names that we've been talking about for the United Wrestling Network and the NWA. I mean, Sal Renaro was on the debut show. Zicky Dice has been a part of the show. We've seen some of the talents like Slice Boogie. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Clearwater ends up at Championship Wrestling in Atlanta at some point. Willie Bowen says, as a Scion doesn't have a bucket of KFC chicken thighs and legs with him, Jordan should be the winner. Tyrus will be belching a lot. Fiona says, Bloomin' loved Dickinson. And this kid, I mean, I can't say kid. I don't know how old he is, but he's phenomenal in the ring. He is a beast. And, I know he is a lot smaller than some of the other guys we know as world champions, but he would be a lot of fun. And then Luthes says the rematch works for me. I've become such a huge Mike Bennett fan. You could ask the guys at what This Is Pro Wrestling podcast last year when he was announced as Aldis's first match back at Primetime Live. I was not looking forward to it, and I was very critical of it because I thought Mike Bennett wasn't the guy. And it turns out Mike Bennett 100% was the guy, because not only did he kill it against Nick Aldis, and they had a just absolute awesome match, and a shortened match, but an awesome match nonetheless. He came back to Primetime Live, and he had great matches with other guys on the roster. Kevin Martinson, I think he wrestled Sean Davari, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, he was supposed to wrestle Dickinson last year. He had a solid match at Championship Wrestling from Atlanta against Jonathan Gresham, which is available now. You guys can check that out. I highly recommend it. Mike Bennett is the dude, and he's a guy who I will watch him go anywhere. Ring of Honor, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Primetime Live, the NWA, anywhere. I think that would be good. Good to see Bennett. He says that 90s Wrestling Podcast has a nice interview with Bennett. I'll have to check that out. I didn't hear it, but yeah, I'm a fan for life. That guy has won me over for sure. So we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Again, if you enjoyed this podcast, first of all, thank you for taking time out of your day, out of your week, to listen to me ramble about wrestling. You guys are here with me. We're all part of this community, and it's a lot of fun. I know that our pal over there at the NWA, This Is Pro Wrestling Podcast, coined the phrase, the hashtag NWA fam. But I really genuinely feel that we are all a part of that one greater good, that hashtag NWA fam. I hope my audience feels at home with that as much as their audience does. But we're also the Talk NWA crowd and the Ham Sandwich crowd. So thank you guys for being a part of this show every Tuesday here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, wherever you're watching, as well as on Thursday nights with DKM and Kevin and I. As long as you guys keep watching this, we'll keep doing it. And I'll keep trying to get more and more matches here on our YouTube channel for you to check out. The last match we put up was the United Wrestling Network Tag Team titles, the Bodega versus Midnight Heat. It was a lot of fun match. Unfortunately, towards the end there, the camera was going wonky, but it was kind of fun. So hope you'll check that out. Willie Bowen, real quick, says Nick Aldis as NWA World Heavyweight Champion wrestled Brian Cage and Brian Pillman Jr. This is true. You're right. Also, if you're a fan of the site and want to support it monetarily, hey, you could buy a t-shirt at our merch store, which the link is in the description, as well as you could t-shirts, hats, all that fun stuff. And if you don't want to pay anything to support this brand, you don't have to. You just give us a thumbs up, like it, leave a comment, share it with your friends, post it on social media. We do appreciate that. Again, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and when that happens, there's going to be a giveaway. We're going to be giving away that replica crown belt. We're going to be giving away some t-shirts, some hats, some buttons. Hope you guys are all jacked about that and excited, because it's been a lot of fun. And well, that's going to do it for us, guys. So again, I do appreciate everyone being here, and let's go watch some NWA Power. Until then, buy that dip, and I'll see you at the matches.